Now at 11, it happened again. A Tesla driver caught on camera asleep at the wheel. What auto safety experts say needs to happen now.
Plus, a Salinas teenager followed to school by a stranger, but then another stranger saved the day.
And watching a trough of low pressure on the way in, that could bring us some wet weather. Got the details coming up.
And a controversial TV host gets another shot on screen. What changed for Billy Bush since his leaked Access Hollywood tape with President Trump? And if you were hit by the Equifax data breach, the rules to collect your cash has changed. What you need to do to get the payout.
This is KION News Channel 546 at 11.
A Salinas teenager who was followed by a stranger on her way to school gets some help. Good evening, I'm Aaron Groff. She was walking to Alisal High School this morning when police say a man approached her. So she flagged down a random car, hopped in, and got a ride to school. KION's Alicia Machado joins us now after speaking with that driver. And Alicia, police do not agree with her move.
Aaron, while the girl is safe tonight, police don't recommend getting in a stranger's car, but the driver says she's glad she was able to help.
It's a scary situation.
Not something you might expect walking to school, a stranger following you down the street. But Monday morning, a girl on her way to Alisal High School had someone tailing her. Police say the unknown man started talking to her and walking next to her near Williams Road and Del Monte Avenue. As the girl was crossing the street, she waved down a car here near Alisal Community School to try to get away from the stranger. The driver, who she also didn't know, was able to get her to safety. That driver was Sandra Mendoza.
I asked her what's going on. She says, this guy's been following me from the other bus stop and I'm scared. And I said, okay. I unlocked my doors and I told her to get in.
Something Mendoza hopes a good Samaritan would do for her children if they were in this situation.
I have kids and it's scary. You never know what can happen.
But Salinas police spokesperson Miguel Cabrera says getting into another stranger's car was not the best idea.
If you find yourself in a situation like this, that you separate yourself from the situation safely by going into like a public building, a business.
The closest place in this case would have been the nearby elementary school, a reminder to always be aware of your surroundings.
Police searched for the man that Mendoza said was in his 20s, wearing gray pants and a black jacket. They weren't able to find him. However, police say no crime was committed here. Back to you.
Scary situation, Alicia. Thank you. It is a stalemate between the city of Salinas and the police officers union. They're having a tough time reaching any sort of agreement relating to salary and benefits. And the city says they have now put their final plan forward. The city's plan offers no pay increase for police officers, and officers would have to pay 5% of their own health insurance premiums. The Salinas Police Officers Association wants a 3-year contract for officers, which would include a 2.5% pay bump every year, while the city looks to get a rising deficit under control and the current deal reportedly put together by a third party. The union tells us this plan would amount to a substantial pay cut for their officers.
We're in the midst of a staffing crisis, and by forcing police officers to take a pay cut, they're going to force more police officers to leave the city.
Officers also worry it'll affect response times for emergencies, recruitment, and crime prevention. Salinas Mayor Joe Gunter says the city has to worry about its financial stability right now, with an increase in the public employees' retirement cost looming. An understanding between the two parties ended back in late 2018. They began negotiating new terms this year, but in early April, the city said neither party could come to an agreement. That's where we are now. A number of traffic projects start on Highway 68 tomorrow. One will widen shoulders, improve signage, and upgrade the guardrail. That'll be west of Bishop Avenue to just east of Chomp. Shoulder closures will start tomorrow from 8:30 in the morning to 4. More closures will happen over the night on Wednesday and Friday from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
And now, Chief Meteorologist Dan Siaka with your Weather Authority forecast.
Well, we're starting to get that time of year where our weather goes from very consistent weather to somewhat more roller coastery weather. Well, that's certainly going to be a possibility as we have some cooler temperatures right now, but much warmer temperatures on the way. and also the potential for some precipitation tomorrow morning. So let's talk about that. Here's a look at our satellite picture. We can see a trough of low pressure here on the west coast. When the lines dip like this, that is a trough of low pressure. What that is going to do is start to lift up on our marine layer. Already starting to see those low clouds thicken up tonight across the region. And we'll take a live look here from our Domenico's on the wharf cam. At the moment, not seeing any of the clouds right on the ground. They are a little bit higher, but we do have some low clouds out there, and they will continue to thicken up through the overnight hours. One thing I'm tracking is our humidity levels. We're seeing the humidity raise in places like Carmel Valley up to 93% right now, 83% in Watsonville. As these clouds get thicker tonight, as they raise up with the marine layer deepening, they'll be able to hold less moisture, and we may squeeze some drizzle out of it to the point where we may actually see a little bit of moisture accumulating on the roadways. So we'll be taking a closer look at the potential for some precipitation in your forecast, and that's going to come up in just a few more minutes. Back to you.
All right, Dan, thank you very much. The Santa Cruz City Council is considering a plan to impose a curfew on Main Beach. They're going to discuss this at their meeting tomorrow night. The city says an increase in nuisance crimes because of the homeless camping on the beach is what led to this move. City officials are recommending that the dry sand portion of Main Beach be closed to the public from midnight to just an hour before sunrise. A similar curfew has been in effect on Cowell Beach since 2013. PG&E released a plan to offer billions of dollars in aid for victims of wildfires that sparked because of their electric equipment. $18 billion for people, insurance companies, and cities. The plan was filed in court today as the company seeks to get out of bankruptcy. PG&E says it could raise more than $30 billion in debt and equity financing from the largest banks in the nation. News from the Capitol, a bill that would have California create special banks to handle cash from the pot industry will not pass this year. The bill's author, Senator Bob Hertzberg, pulled the bill. He says he hopes to put it back up for a vote next year. Despite protests in Sacramento today, Governor Newsom signed 2 bills that will crack down on doctors who write fake medical exemptions for children's vaccinations. One allows public health officials to investigate doctors who write more than 5 of these exemptions. The other adds a phase-out period for medical exemptions. Protesters surrounded the Capitol today, blocking entrances, with some people even arrested. Many of them parents who say they want medical freedom, but others say it's about protecting kids.
My son almost died post-vaccination, and so I don't believe that we should be forced to ever put anything in our bodies.
I think it's really important for all children to be protected from diseases that are preventable, and these are dangerous diseases that can really harm children and other vulnerable people in the community.
The bill's author created the now law in response to the massive measles outbreak. He says it's about protecting the public and preventing another public health scare. Health issues related to vaping are on the rise. Last week alone, cases doubled to 450, including 5 deaths. The closest one to us was in Los Angeles County. Health experts in Santa Cruz County are urging people to put down the e-cigarettes. We're seeing the same thing across the country, at least until these health officials have more answers. They say that patients are coming into their doctors reporting symptoms similar to a cold or flu, but typical medications don't work. They're also complaining of coughing, nausea, and trouble breathing. And while no exact cause has been nailed down, all of the patients say they vaped. Originally, vaping was meant to be a way to get people to stop smoking, but many say it's become a lot more than that now.
I feel like it's very societally cool right now to be vaping, and I think that we should all just be questioning it.
Health officials are telling doctors to be aware and ask about vaping history. They say it's important to collect the vaping device itself that's been used, if that's possible, and then report it to the county health agency. News across the nation, criticism for President Trump over a canceled secret peace meeting with Taliban leaders. The president made his announcement over the weekend, saying an attack in Kabul that killed an American soldier and 11 others is what prompted his move. While there has been praise for canceling the talk, he's taking heat for having it scheduled in the first place.
A terrorist organization that doesn't recognize nation states, that kills innocent women and children, to have them at Camp David is totally unacceptable.
To bring the Taliban on the eve of the 18th anniversary of September 11th is about as outrageous as it gets.
The Taliban responded, saying the move to cancel would, quote, not harm anyone else but the Americans themselves. They did leave the door open for future talks. In the days before the 18th anniversary of 9/11, 3 former heads of Homeland Security addressed the biggest current security threats to this country. They spoke about how threats have changed dramatically since 2001.
Terrorist threat to our homeland has evolved significantly over the last 18 years to smaller scale terrorist-inspired attacks, inspired either by a terrorist group overseas or by extreme right-wing violent nationalism.
They also addressed the threat of climate change, the overwhelming mission at the border, and foreign government interference as we get closer to the 2020 election. The group warned against what's called deep fakes and how those can be used to trick American voters.
I don't know. I mean, others would have to make their own headlines. For me, it's returning to my love. I'm very grateful to return to what I love to do.
Tomorrow on CBS This Morning, Billy Bush says he's got a new mindset and explains the controversy over the infamous Access Hollywood tape with President Trump. He sits down with Gayle King and talks about his return to television. CBS This Morning starts at 7 in the morning following Wake Up right here on KION. Coming up, chaos at a parade, spooked elephants sent more than a dozen people to the hospital. We head to the Bahamas with a desperate plea for help after Hurricane Dorian, and how a local sports team is getting Gilroy strong tonight.
This is a catastrophe for the Bahamas. We need help internationally from the world.
A desperate plea from the wife of the Bahamian Prime Minister. Hurricane Dorian hit as a Category 5 and the damage you see here has been catastrophic. Abaco and Grand Bahama saw the worst damage, at least 45 people killed. And for those who survived, work has only begun now to pick up the pieces. They're returning to neighborhoods devastated by strong winds, heavy rain, and storm surge. And that death toll is expected to rise again dramatically. Hundreds of people remain missing, buried under the rubble that you're seeing here, just so close to the water. People continue to search for their loved ones. One woman hasn't seen her cousin since the storm hit the town of Marsh Harbor more than a week ago.
I hope they find him. I hope so. We just have a son. You don't even know the baby face yet. I hope they find him. I hope so.
She says it's been tough to even know where or how to start looking for her cousin. And for that reason, Vanessa Pritchard started DorianPeopleSearch.com with a handful of other volunteers and her laptop. The list she creates is a living document of the missing and located in a place to start. These hurricanes throw so much around that the surface moves out and items lost to history find their way back into the present. After Dorian, a couple in South Carolina were looking for shells and came across a Civil War cannonball. Local response teams actually had to come in, check, and make sure this device is not dangerous. It's no longer explosive. 16, by the way, cannonballs were found in the same location a couple years ago during Hurricane Matthew. Very, very interesting there.
Pretty wild stuff. Only a little bit of good news, I guess, after all the bad news the folks in the Bahamas have experienced, man.
Yeah, but now we're going to take a look at what we have, I guess, still from Dorian, right?
Yeah, well, nothing here locally or really even in the United States. Dorian has gone through the transition to become extratropical, so let's talk about that. Here's a satellite picture across the far North Atlantic Ocean tonight, and I'll put this into motion for you. And you may see a couple things that stick out to you thinking, oh, well, that must be Dorian right there, or maybe that's Dorian right there. Well, this right here is actually Tropical Storm Gabrielle, which is undergoing transition to extratropical cyclone. But up here is a weather system which actually has the remnants of Dorian in it, and both of these systems are being pulled up toward the British Isles. So wind, rain likely there as these systems move. They are no longer tropical systems. We're looking at something that is more like a winter storm with colder temperatures, gusty winds, and rain, and that's typically what happens to these tropical cyclones once they reach the northern latitudes. Things pretty calm here across the central coast today. We had some low clouds at times, but otherwise our spread between our highs and lows wasn't all that big today compared to how we were maybe last week. About 88 degrees in Bradley today, one of our warm spots. 81 in Watsonville, 80 in Santa Cruz, Salinas 75, Monterey 71, and our Moss Landing was our cool spot at 66 degrees today. But one other thing we're talking about into tomorrow morning is the potential for some drizzly precipitation. In fact, the computer model is showing a few hundredths of an inch of precipitation on the south and east sides of the bay. Now, I don't know that we will pull 6/100ths of an inch of drizzle in Carmel Valley, but you may get 1/100th of an inch or perhaps 2/100ths of an inch tomorrow morning as we see northwesterly winds coming in off the water, a deepening marine layer taking that moist, cool ocean air and pushing it up those hills. So if you're looking to the northwest and you see the ocean and you're on a hill, well, that air is going to come moving up over you, and as it moves up, it cools and can hold less moisture. Some of it begins to precipitate out. In this case, it would be some drizzle, but it could be enough to make some roadways wet tomorrow morning. Highway 1, Highway 68 a little bit, the road through Carmel Valley, those locations may have some wet spots, even all the way up through around, say, Royal Oaks or so. We could get a little moisture out of this air tomorrow morning. So just watch out for some slick spots on the way out the door. That should end a couple hours after sunrise, and then we're looking at mostly sunny skies. Our clouds will scatter out tomorrow afternoon around the bay. We have a few of them which will linger, but otherwise it'll just be a somewhat cool day for us for most coastal and inland areas. As highs should shape up to be just a touch below normal for this time of year. One area that may still feel okay will be the north side of the bay. 77 your high in Santa Cruz, 76 in Capitola. These highs are actually slightly above normal. You have northwesterly winds bringing a more drier air down out of the mountains, and that keeps you, well, warmer. Up in the hills, though, we're not seeing 80s and 90s, we're seeing 70s. So even that warm spot, Ben Lomond at 77, seems pretty comfortable compared to the 90s we saw last week. Davenport tomorrow, 69. We're going to stay in the mid-70s in Aptos and Watsonville tomorrow. Prunedale in there as well. 72 in Salinas, but only 70s in Hollister and Gilroy. Back to the 60s in Castroville Marina tomorrow. Monterey in the 60s. Same in Seaside and Pacific Grove, but Carmel tops out in the 70s. And then farther south, away from the coast, you'd think, oh, we're going to get 90s and hundos, but no hundos tomorrow. We're looking at highs in the 70s for most of the Salinas Valley. A few spots in the 80s like Parkfield in the San Antonio Valley, but that is about it. Now, we do have some temperature changes coming again. Trough of low pressure on the west coast right now. The bluer colors here, the dip in the lines, that is the trough right there, will be headed east as we head into the later portions of the week to be replaced by a ridge of high pressure. And that is going to bring the heat back to the area. In fact, even coastal areas will feel the warmth with that system with a light offshore breeze by Thursday and Friday. And our highs on the coast approach 80. And that's an average of all of 11 coastal cities that I figure in there. So you may be 85 in Santa Cruz, for example, and 75 in Monterey. But either way, some warm weather coming to the coast. Looks like some nice beach days, though the weekend will be a little bit more seasonable by Saturday and Sunday. So Thursday and Friday, the warmest days. Inland areas cool for this time of year tomorrow, but temperatures heading back upward will be above normal by Thursday. We'll stay there through Saturday. So, you know, those hundreds that we haven't been seeing, they'll be back, Aaron.
It is back, Dan. Thank you very much. Gilroy strong coverage tonight. The San Jose Barracudas, a minor league team for the San Jose Sharks hockey team, will be wearing Gilroy Strong warm-up jerseys for all 5 of their home games in December. The jerseys then go up for auction with the proceeds going to the Gilroy Foundation. Hundreds of new jobs will be coming to Greenfield with construction underway at the long-awaited Yanks Air Museum. Off of Highway 101 near the Thorn Road exit, a roughly 400-acre plot of land will be the home, with restaurants and a hotel also to come. Last week was the groundbreaking, a second version of the historic World War II Aircraft Museum already in Southern California. The owner bought the land in Greenfield 30 years ago, and the city finally annexed the land, allowing for construction to begin. The mayor says this will add 300 permanent jobs.
People working in the museum, you're going to have people, in the gift shop in the museum, you're going to have people at the hotel working for the hotel, people in the restaurants, the gas stations. Not only big for Greenfield, it's big for South County.
People everywhere, 300 acres of the land. It's permanent ag field, so there won't really be building there, but it does leave more than 100 for the development, which Greenfield hopes will bring in the revenue. This museum is expected to open late next year or early 2021. Auto safety experts call for more oversight after another video shows someone passed out at the Tesla wheel. Plus, 48 states want a look into Google, their complaints tonight. Welcome back. Caught on camera, more than a dozen people trampled by elephants during a parade in Sri Lanka Saturday. This is that scene. It started because one of the elephants was spooked during the procession. 17 people ended up being taken to the hospital, and the parade continued after the incident. Now back in the States, another video in a disturbing trend to see that driver of a Tesla apparently asleep at the wheel. The passenger is too. Auto safety experts say Tesla and other car companies are creating a false sense of security because their cars are not fully autonomous. These driver assist systems are largely unregulated by the federal government. The National Rifle Association is suing San Francisco. This after the San Francisco Board of Supervisors labeled the group a domestic terrorist organization. On September 3rd, they called for the city and county to limit financial and contractual relationships with vendors doing business with the NRA. The NRA suit claims the board's purpose was to suppress their Second Amendment viewpoint and obstruct its core political speech. The group says the resolution will also unjustifiably prevent members and supporters from obtaining government contracts. Dozens of state attorneys general are launching an investigation into Google and its advertising practices. In every state but California and Alabama, they're criticizing the search engine for its billions in profits, saying web access may be free, but it comes at a cost of the user's privacy. The probe will initially look into Google's advertising business, but it will likely expand. The attorneys are also investigating Google for anti-competitive behavior, potentially harming both people and business owners that are highly dependent on online sales.
Which is why this investigation is so important, that we absolutely ensure that even the biggest of big tech companies are accountable.
This investigation is not a lawsuit yet. However, if Google is found to have acted in a way that broke U.S. antitrust rules, the company could be forced to cut part of its business. Equifax is making it harder for you to get that $125 data breach payout. They're adding an extra step. If you want your compensation, you need to verify their claim by providing the name of the credit monitoring service that you had in place when they filed it. And the service must remain in place for at least 6 months after filing. This new step has to be completed by October 15th. Otherwise, the claim for compensation will be denied. A major U.S. chain is starting a new loyalty program. When it kicks off and how it will benefit those of us who might swipe that card a bit too much. Plus, high blood pressure is becoming a growing concern in pregnant women. What doctors say is behind the growing health issue. We're back with your health alert. New research reveals a big increase in high blood pressure with pregnant women. This can be dangerous for both mom and baby. Dr. Amy Stoddard from UCLA Health says the increase is largely due to more women becoming pregnant later in life. She warns that the condition can cause serious health risks, including kidney failure, stroke, and increased likelihood of stillbirth. Doctors are closely monitoring the issue as pregnant women with high blood pressure require extra prenatal care. Consumer news now. If you find yourself leaving the Target checkout line with a bill much larger than expected, you got those big rolls, how they do it now? Well, the retail chain is looking to pay you back. Starting next month, you can get money back on purchases through the Target Circle loyalty program. The program will work with the chain's credit card. It's free, and if you already have a Target.com account or a red card, you will be automatically enrolled. The program begins October 6th. No more Antonio Brown for the Oakland Raiders, released from the team, but with the first game tonight, they can actually begin to move forward. And they definitely did move on. Watch here, Derek Carr to Tyrell Williams, first score of the season. And then how about another on the ground? It's going to be Josh Jacobs, if we can get that play in. Nope, that's just going to be another long pass to Tyrell Williams. Eventually is going to set up a Jacobs run. There it is, up over the top. Raiders go on to win 24-16 against the Denver Broncos. Oakland baseball fans, though, not as happy today. A huge shutout loss at the hands of the Houston Astros. 15-0. The A's only had 3 hits. As for the Giants, they actually had the lead going into the 9th inning, but the Pittsburgh Pirates put up a 4 spot. They are 8.5 back in the second wild card, so this could be that final gut punch. Well, coming up, have you ever seen a surfing dog? Well, today, a chance to see a whole bunch of them, all for a good cause, too.
And I've got your weather photo of the day, plus a personalized forecast. But now it's time for your Toyota Gas Report. Take a look at some of the lowest gas prices from select cities here on the Central Coast. This data is powered by GasBuddy.com.
We're ending with dogs tonight. A bunch of them surfing in Southern California. The Surf Dog Surfathon, the money benefits a local animal shelter. Really cool. Real quick though, Dan, some out the door weather.
Yeah, take a look at this beautiful shot sent in by Florence Meinhold of the sun setting there at Bonnie Doon. Beautiful shot, Florence. Thanks so much for that. Your forecast tomorrow, very comfortable high of 72. Enjoy it.
That's my favorite weather, just keeping the low 70s, mid 70s.
Like room temperature.